Although there are many similarities between patristic and scholastic theology, there is at least one crucial difference. On the whole, patristic theology maintained that the greatest theological insights come through mystical inspiration. But scholasticism was highly rationalistic, stressing the value of logic in exploring, explaining, and defending all of theology. The physical and spiritual worlds, and even God Himself, were to be analyzed through the careful application of logic. Scholastics were well schooled in Aristotle's writings on logic, physics, and metaphysics, and sought to accommodate the presentation of Christian theology to this rational worldview. And for this reason, to understand medieval scholastic theology, we need to have some understanding of Aristotle's views on logic. Time will only allow us to mention 4 aspects of Aristotle's views on logic that influence scholastic theology. First, the importance of precise terminology. Second, the necessity of propositional reasoning. Third, the value of logical syllogisms. And finally, the priorities of rational analysis. In the first place, Aristotle understood that the success of rational, logical reflection depended on the terms we use and how carefully we define them. Now, definitions were important to Neoplatonist and patristic theologians as well, but Aristotle was much more concrete in the way he handled these matters. Based on his views of physics and metaphysics, he described logical, even early scientific ways of classifying items by defining the essence or substance of a thing and its accidents or non-essential features to distinguish anything under consideration from all other things. Correspondingly, in order to communicate clearly with their Aristotelian culture, scholastic theologians also defined theological terms as precisely as possible. To illustrate just how scholastics accommodated their theology to Aristotle's emphasis on precise terminology, let's look at a passage from Aquinas' Summa Theologica. In the chapter entitled, "Is God Infinite?" Aquinas reported and responded to the following objection. Objection 1. It seems that God is not infinite, for everything infinite is imperfect, because it has parts and matter. But God is most perfect, therefore He is not infinite. To answer this objection, Aquinas focused on issues of definition. Listen to how he responded. Now, matter is perfected by the form by which it is made finite. Therefore, infinite as attributed to matter has the nature of something imperfect, for it is, as it were, formless matter. Notice how Aquinas used several technical terms in this brief passage. He used terms such as matter, form, formless, finite, infinite, perfected, and imperfect. And he used these terms in ways that were understood in his day because they corresponded to Aristotle's use of such terms. Consequently, Aquinas was able to make fine distinctions between his views and the views of others. This focus on precise definitions of terminology was characteristic of scholastic theology. As a result of this focus, scholastic theology was rife with technical terms. Scholastics developed extensive specialized vocabulary for Christian theology, and this is important to us because many of their terms have continued to be used in Christian theology throughout the centuries. Besides inspiring scholastic theologians to emphasize precise terminology, Aristotle's work on logic also motivated them to give a central role to propositions in communicating theological truth. In their simplest forms, propositions are assertions of fact formed by a subject and a predicate. We use propositions all the time in daily speech. Consider the sentence, "I am a man." In this proposition, I is the subject and am a man is the predicate. And we're all familiar with propositions in theology, such as Jesus is the Son of God. Propositional assertions of fact like these were essential to scholastic theology as it was shaped by Aristotle's analysis of logic. Aristotle focused much attention on how logical reasoning operates with propositions. In his view, logic does not operate with expressions of intuitions or emotions, poetry or symbolism, riddles or prayers. Logic is concerned primarily with statements of fact. Only with properly formed propositions can we use logic to analyze a topic. In line with Aristotle's emphasis, scholasticism worked hard to express its formal theology in propositions. Now, on a less formal, less academic level, scholastic theologians understood that the Christian faith had to involve other kinds of expressions. Many scholastics were very pious and expressed their religious convictions in poetry, hymns, prayers, and the like. But in sophisticated academic context, theological beliefs were presented in carefully constructed propositions, assertions of facts.